The early weeks of October 2022 became a historical weekend when two unrelated major franchises with completely different routes, one sci-fi, another fantasy, produced by completely separate companies with completely different approach in storytelling, released by different streaming competitors, put out an episode with the same title released only 1 week after another. The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, Episode 7, titled The Eye, was released on October 7, 2022, just 1 week before Andor Episode 6, also titled The Eye, was released on October 12, 2022.
Coincidence? I think not!
The Canary is not the only one of Southeast Asian origin. The Dani is the name of a real tribe in the Papua.
They were here for centuries.
Near where the Gressberg mine is located.
But it only took the Empire a decade to clear them out.
Just one of the many anti-imperialist stands that this series is really seriously taking on as its main theme. It's something that we haven't seen much since the early days of George Lucas. And the victims of imperial powers are not the only people that get fleshed out in Andor. In a rare display of humanity, and which turned out to be a crucial plot point of the heist, Andor decided to depict Imperial officer J-Holt Beehaz not only as being fat and satisfied while lording over the Dani tribe.
The Danis, they're simple people. They breed a sad combination of traits that make them particularly vulnerable to manipulation.
And manipulate them, they did, just like colonial occupiers in real life, even to the point that they placed a series of comfort units, obviously a reference to the comfort women. That would be women and girls forced into sexual slavery by the Imperial Japanese Army during World War II. Which ironically, at the end of World War II, the Japanese would also have to force their women into sexual slavery when they needed to host their American occupiers by the end of the war. And sadly, as in real life, these sort of strategy work.
We found the best way to steer them as we like is to offer alternatives. You put a number of options on the table, and they're so wrapped up in choosing they fail to notice you've given them nothing they thought they wanted at the start.
You know, just regular colonial occupier thing. We actually saw J-Holt Beehaz's family doing family thing. His wife Roboda dressing up a kid. I mean, who would name someone Roboda when they're not even Robo? Star Wars does. Anyway, we got some very mundane, relatable family interaction.
I'm not wearing that.
You'll do as you're told.
Even with Leonart saying that he's not feeling very well, corroborated by Mom to get out of this stupid ceremony of trading some stupid smelly hide that apparently not even the Dani respected. Nobody wants colonial occupiers, and a piece of smelly rug ain't gonna change anything. But they did something clever with this storytelling here by having J-Holt host a ceremony with his superior, Colonel Pettigar, in attendance, who came very far away from Coruscant to relocate the Alkanzi Air Base closer to where they keep the quarterly payroll of an entire Imperial sector. You would think this sort of thing would require more security, but here we are. And his death also became a significant historical point in Star Wars. This was the first on-screen heart attack in Star Wars. And so, the worst thing happened to J-Holt Beehaz on the very day that he was trying to impress his boss, and the rebel heroes in Andor points a gun at his kid's head. I'd never thought I'd see the good guys pointing a gun at a kid's head in Star Wars. It feels like that this would make for a great origin story for Leonart Beehaz. The rebellion killed his dad for a bunch of paperweight. He's going to be staunchly loyal to the Empire. And Skeen was also ready to execute that kid at point-blank range. And before his eyes, Leonart watched how Imperial officer Colonel Pettigar, the one hero who's brave enough to pull the gun,
Let the boy go.
only to be shot in the back by someone. There was no second thought, and even at the cost of almost costing Nemik his life. Once again, we are reminded that Andor is not a movie about space wizards intended for 12-year-olds. Or is it? Kids should learn how the rebellion is not the good guy.
The Empire improves every system it touches, judged by any metric. Safety, prosperity, trade, opportunity, peace.
The Aldani heist from Andor started off wrong. After a hiccup, Pettigar dies. It feels like the plan was going very well, that they all might just make it out alive. Until the lights suddenly went out. It became so suspenseful that things might go sideways for everyone, and the resolution to that suspense was brilliant, simply by having Gorn, who was so prepared that when the lights go out, seemingly not part of the plan, simply pulls out a flashlight. It was all part of the plan, without a single word showing what is going on instead of telling you what is going going on. But that doesn't mean you can't tell what is going on. Anyone who tells you that the show don't tell rule, absolute inviolable law that you must follow 100% all of the time, that if you tell instead of show, you made a bad doo-doo, are the kind of people who knows nothing about filmmaking. People have been telling instead of showing since the dawn of time, when we were still gathering around campfire and telling stories. And in Endor, you will find a great example of how to tell to come to a satisfying payoff. Instead of showing what's going on, we've been told of what happened with the Gorn in a bunch of backstories.
He fell in love with a local woman, lost a promotion. Then he lost the woman. Then he lost his taste for the Empire.
And when J-Hole Beehaz finally found out who's the person on the inside was,
"You'll hang for this."
7 years serving you. I deserve worse than that.
and given the backstory that was given about him, how tragic his life was that lead up to this heist, you really want him to survive, you know. Give a proper payback to the Empire. But no, Gorn just died. And of course, Gorn is just the latest thing in Star Wars that have borrowed from Star Trek. Probably as an homage, in the original series, Gorn was a monster that Captain Kirk shot. Episode 1 has Nemoidian, whose name was very close to Leonard Nimoy, who played Spock.
Sensors.
And Endor is of course named after the Endorians. Perhaps most interesting is Namek, which I suspect was taken from the Namekians. This is my official headcanon and I'm sticking to it. Just like Rogue One, it was fun to see the members of the rebellion dropping like flies. Poor Termin couldn't make it to the ship and just died. There is no glorious death, there is no last word, he just died like the people do in real life. This isn't a movie about space wizards intended for 12-year-olds. And even if you made it to the ship, as luck would have it, Namek gets crushed by the loot box. But he can't die yet because he was the only one who knows how to use the hipster compass. And you know it's a hipster compass because it's made out of a Polaroid camera. Apparently, it's a modified Polaroid SX70 land camera, which followed the long tradition of Star Wars of taking available camera designs and adapting it to make an on-screen prop, a tradition long dating back to the original Anakin's lightsaber that Luke Skywalker used, that was created using a Graflex camera flash handle made in New York. They didn't even bother to erase the production mark on the Graflex handle, and thus making it canon that the Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber was crafted in New York. The side effect of using a vintage camera part as repurposed prop was that cosplayers started buying these Graflex handles to make authentic Skywalker lightsaber that the Graflex handle sold for a lot more than the Graflex camera itself. Well, whatever you make can't be authentic. It has to be a replica by definition. Making it using an original prop doesn't make it more real, while at the same time, the limited availability of the Graflex, because it was already out of production, made it difficult for camera enthusiasts to actually preserve this dying technology when they're competing with cosplayers who are out to buy these things not to use them, but to dismantle them and repurpose it as a replica prop. At least when Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man came out sporting a Yashica Electro G35, he was using it as a proper camera. No doubt cosplayers rushed to buy these things, ultimately pricing out camera enthusiasts out of the market. But they didn't do it to dismantle the camera to build something else. They were using it as a camera proper, because Spider-Man was actually a photographer, with Namek using a gadget that was repurposed apparently from the Polaroid SX70 land camera, a camera that is long out of production. It is inevitable that a lot of Star Wars fans will be looking for this camera to recreate Namek's hipster compass. And they are not going to be using it completely intact as a camera, because as you can see on screen, this is the back of the SX70 with the cover removed. That's the internal instant film exposure screen right there. So if you're thinking of making one of these for your cosplay needs or collection or whatever, please consider just using a 3D printer to print this out, because even if you're buying a used one, a broken one, camera repair shops buy these for parts to fix cameras. So just 3D print a new one. I promise you it'll look just as screen accurate, and you can make more for other people who want it without decimating what limited availability left of the Polaroid SX70 land camera. Namek's Astro Navigator became the crucial gadget to navigate the eye, one of the most gorgeous natural phenomenon ever depicted in Star Wars, and it felt so real. It didn't just begin, it started gradually, giving us beautiful sights such as when Cinta and Val was going underwater, illuminated by the eye. Subscribe!